to the president of the university and vice president of the University for Information Management. During his first spell as dean, the school achieved Triple Crown accreditation, introduced the Executive MBA, the Master of Science in Finance, established the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation and the University Accelerator, the Venture Lab. He helped raise close to $10 million in gift scholarship and sponsorships. He was Associate Dean for Executive Education and Director of Executive Education. Before joining the university, he led the Training and Professional Development Institute of the Cabinet of Egypt Information and Decision Support Center and the Regional Information Technology Institute. He is a board member of the American Chamber of Commerce in Egypt and the Egypt-US Business Council. He was a board member of the Egyptian American Enterprise Fund, the World Bank Knowledge Advisory Commission, and a founding member of the Internet Society of Egypt. Sherif, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Marie-Jo. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm delighted to be joining you today. Of course, we would have come, as Martial said in his opening remarks, we would have really enjoyed being together. But again, for the health and safety of everybody, this year we have to meet in through the. I'm trying to open my camera so you can see me. I hope you can now. Can you?
Yeah. Let me help you with this one.
Okay.
So, because I had the control of the screen
Right
here.
So, so we'll have to meet this year through the digital platforms. But again, delighted to connect and be part of the Eduniversal global family. It's unbelievable. It's been 2 years since we last met in Bangkok, and hopefully next year we will all meet in person. But until then, I urge you, please, please, please be well and stay safe. So let's move to today's subject. Globalization and the future of higher education. An extremely important and timely topic. We have been seeing changes in the space and ecosystem of global education, higher education for many, many years. And I want to just start by saying, of course, we were disrupted last year. Goes without saying. But let me just say that disruption that caused and moved us all into the virtual world, like we are today, did not just start when COVID hit. We've been seeing that transformation happening for years. And I would like to extend that by saying, transformation started in the early 80s, when we first started buying personal computers and having them at home. So the connection started there. Of course, it was accelerated with the internet, and then with mobility, and then with social media, and then COVID hit. I see this as an opportune moment. We heard Sonju in his opening keynote speech talking about the humane element, which is extremely important. Coupled with that he also covered is innovation. I think this is an opportune moment to look at how the future of higher education will look like, and how international collaboration, and a subset of that, in my view, is globalization, can actually impact that. Impact for good, where everybody learn from each other. We are all learning on the go. And the challenges we faced over the past, now, almost, I believe if my memory serves me well, the very first case of COVID was November 17th, 2019, which is 2 years to the day. 2 years we've been trying something different. Let me ask you a question, everybody on the conference today. We all talk about change. We like change. We preach for change. We endorse change. Nobody wants to change. Just think about it, me included. We always like to stick to the status quo. But I believe we've all, one way or another, changed last year. I mean, the year before last, it's already 2 years. Changed because of our behavior, because we didn't have another option. But the alternative opened up opportunities for education at large, and obviously higher education. So how the future looks like? Is this going to be different? I really hope so. Because if you go back to what we used to have before COVID hit, then we would have lost an opportune moment. And please don't get me wrong. I do not mean by that we should go online. No. The globalization and the transformation in higher education can take so many shapes and forms. But granted, technology will be part of it, whether we like it or not. I do not believe it's going to be online, but it's going to be some form of blended learning. With that blend, we can learn from each other and from our collaboration internationally between different business schools and universities around the world. But we need to have the infrastructure ready. Does this infrastructure means to have internet connectivity, state-of-the-art technology, state-of-the-art software applications and platform? Yes, but not just that, but also the governance model of higher education. Capacity building of faculty, staff, students, the entire constituents that work within the higher education environment. We need to provide the enabling environment. And we all work in academic institutions. We all know the speed that academic institutions go by as opposed to the corporate. It's much slower. But I think moving forward, we need to be more agile, we need to be more dynamic. Not just because we want to be agile for the sake of being agile, but we want to be agile to remain relevant. Because let's face it, as much as this opens up opportunities, but there is also competition. But I would like to see that as a form of competition where we compete, which is normal, but at the same time collaborate for our own good. So more or less, it's a win-win platform. I see the future of higher education as a platform for more engagement. Technology definitely opens up opportunities for empowerment, for outreach, for collaboration. But we have to keep an eye, and I raise a very red flag, because there is no one size fits all. People in the audience today in the conference come from all corners of the world. There is no one size fits all, and there are variations. And technology, as much as it can be an equalizer, it can be a divider. So we need to keep an eye on inclusion, on equity, on diversity. And these are some of the things that future of higher education should look at. When it comes to zooming in, the forms where globalization can play a role, it's across the different aspects of the academic triangle. Let it be teaching, let it be research, or let it be service. Not just service on campus, but also service for the community. So there are so many questions that are out there. But one thing for sure, I believe that what happened over the last 2 years pushed us to think differently. So moving forward, it's going to be not just about how to connect, but also what to teach and how to teach it. The elements of climate change, SDGs, governance. I very much like what Sun Tzu said when he said how to be humane. Because by the way, I do not believe that technology is going to replace people. I do believe that we as people need to change our skill set, our capacities to be able to use the evolving fast, smart technology platforms. So many questions, different directions. Some people will argue with what I said, some of it at least. Some will disagree with some of it or most of it, but that's exactly how we can evolve. And the window is there. And we are actually the platform that prepares the future business leaders, entrepreneurs, change agents in our respective societies. So what should we teach them? How can we provide them with the most effective student-centered learning environment so they can go out there and make a difference in society? So that was a very quick introduction on where we are, where we should be going. But I'm privileged and have the pleasure to be joined by three distinct speakers on the panel today. And please allow me to briefly introduce them. And then we're going to hear from their own respective experience. They have diverse experiences and rich experiences, and they're going to reflect on the elements of globalization and the future of higher education. And I will start by Professor Ali Quammah. Ali has over 25 years of experience in the space of higher education and the information management industry, with diverse experiences from the United States, Europe, and of course, his and my continent, Africa. Over the years, he has held a variety of leadership positions in several academic and professional institutions, including chairing the Association of African Business Schools, member of the steering committee of the Principles of Responsible Management Education Prime, and European Foundation for Management Development, EFMD, and the Middle East and Africa Region Steering Committee, and also a member of ACSB Middle East North Africa Affinity Group. Ali, that can help us figure out how the future will look like. So he worked there from 2002 to 2005, and before that as a senior information analyst at Merrill Lynch from 1998 to 2002. Ali holds a PhD in management sciences from the University of Angers in France, and he also holds a Master of Science in Computer Information Systems from Regis University and an MBA from the University of Phoenix. My second speaker is Olga Veligurska. Olga is the director of CEEMAN, the International Association for Management Development in Dynamic Societies. Originally from Latvia, Olga has been with CEEMAN since 2004, being closely engaged in many activities and projects, including the International Management Teachers Academy, the conferences they organize, the accreditation, alumni relations, as well as the research projects and activities they do for the entire communities they serve. From 2009 to 2017, she also served as Vice President of Challenge, a future global youth think tank and competition on innovation and sustainability. She represents CEEMAN on the steering committee of Prime chapter for Central and Eastern Europe, and on the board of Equal Network of International Association. Olga holds a BSc from Stockholm School of Economics in Riga, and an MSc and MBA from IEDC Black School of Management in Slovenia. Last, but definitely not least, José Martinez-Sierra is the General Director of UPF Barcelona School of Management. He joined the school in 2021, following a decade at Harvard University. He has diverse experience as a political scientist, sociologist, and a lawyer. He obtained his tenure at the Complutense University of Madrid in 2003 and was awarded a John Monnet Chair in European Law in 2004. During his stay at Harvard University, he served as faculty director of the RCC at this university and developed multiple activities and initiatives, having been recognized for his teaching excellence at Harvard College, leading relevant study groups, obtained international competitive projects. Previously, José has held several important positions in the government of Spain, including advisor to 2 ministers responsible for education portfolio, General Director of the Agency of the Internationalization of Spanish Universities, and General Director for International Relations in the Spanish Ministry of Education. With that, I once again welcome our distinguished speakers, and I'll pass the floor first to my good friend and colleague, Ali. Ali, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sherif. Thank you, Eduniversal team, for this opportunity.
Sorry, Mr. Quammah.
Yes.
Can you come on stage? You can use your avatar, your key arrows. That would be better for the audience to see you.
My key arrows.
Yeah,
Okay.
from your keyboard. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. I can see you move. You have to move from right to left. Yes, perfect. That would be better. You can join on stage, Mr. KAMEL, here. And if you'd like, you can share your camera on the screen and I will help you on that.
Okay, no problem.
Perfect. So you can do you want to share your camera for the audience to see you? Yeah, perfect. So you can right click on the screen in the middle.
Right.
Perfect. Everyone can see you now. Yes.
Great.
The floor is yours.
Again. Thank you. I think the first question that we were asked actually to tackle was actually how do we see the future of management education or business schools. So, but every time I get asked this question for the future of learning, higher education, I find myself hesitant in talking about it, given the fact that more than ever with the COVID-19 pandemic, we're living in a VUCA world, meaning, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. This reminds me of when I was invited back in 2019, long time ago, when people were traveling, by the Dean of Boston University Business School, along with 30 other deans and directors in the frame of a world business and management education jam to ponder upon the question of future of business schools 2030. We walked out with a lot of recommendations that, in my view, should all be reviewed after what we all lived these last 2 years, like Sherif was talking about. Well, a few years ago, in 2018, total registered learners in top online education platforms passed the 100 million mark. The total number of online courses was over 11,400 programs. Roughly 18.2% were business programs, very close to 20% of technology programs. So it's pretty clear that with the COVID-19 variable, this movement is going to bear fruit from truth philosophy, which is providing education access to a broader audience, to even the people who could not afford it otherwise. So the impact on many traditional bricks and mortar business schools can hardly be ignored. There has been many shutdowns of US MBA programs that indicate that pure digital online education strongly challenge the business model of classic incumbents. On the other hand, the open classroom door, so to speak, also give a false impression to the general public that exclusive online education experience captures all the values a traditional business school brings to its students. And that brings us back to what Sherif was talking about. He's not a great believer of pure online education. He's more, about talking about blended, and I will discuss that too. So if the impact continues as digital education technologies evolve, what will become the future of business education? That's pretty much the question. So the ultimate impact of digital technology on education remains to be seen. What is becoming clear, however, is the conversion trends from the learner's standpoint. Learners feel more fulfilled in general when they sign up for a business program at a business school because of the campus dynamics, especially I'm talking about learners in undergraduate, most likely. They're looking more for the campus dynamics. They're looking more for the professors, the peer students, events with companies and leaders, and of course, parties. You know what parties I'm talking about. So all these factors enrich the learning experience of the learners. Online courses are also good to broaden the learner's knowledge, but face-to-face interaction has, in my view, no substitute. The value proposition of business schools today and tomorrow is not to be disregarded because of the disruptive technologies we have to deal with today. Curriculum design, the direct access to faculty, the proximity to cutting-edge research, the exchange with peers, and the exposure to business leaders and organizations were just a few added values of a business school. So there is a real need for higher education leaders now to assess the current power of face-to-face interactions and the magic of the classrooms, as many learners will continue to use the classic format, but the environment is very uncertain and volatile, just like what I said before. So these upcoming generations, Z and Alpha, are diverse, and the amount of new knowledge required is also diverse. Everybody is busy, and so everybody needs flexible business education models. Traditional model does not work for everything. More and more, these generations have started to embrace the new technologies and, more importantly, the new digital world. However, what we noticed is that from the supplier side, meaning from our side, from higher education institutions, the trend seems to be polarized. Classrooms camp often highlights the benefits of face-to-face interactions, the magic of peer-to-peer learning in the classroom, just like what I said, the control professors have as educators to craft the impactful learning journey for all participants. On the opposite side, we find the digital camp often raves about the flexibility for the learners, the personalization based on learner style, the time savings for educators, and the incredible scale advantages. When both sides cannot agree, the conversations typically shifts to disadvantages. The reason why we shouldn't go online is because of these negative points, and the reason why we shouldn't stay in person because of these negative points. So the clear difference between the two formats often comes the source of debate. Which one is better? Interestingly, if one starts to look at this debate from a different perspective, one could argue that the differences between the two worlds can make them extremely complementary. That's why Sherif was talking about some kind of a hybrid or blended. Although many researchers and opinion articles have discussed the benefits of hybrid models that tries to combine the two, more often than not, we still hold on to our mental model and position digital and in-person as opposite poles or arch enemies, right? We should imagine a world benefiting from both formats as the student and executive participants rightfully describe. So I will discuss more, all this later on in the discussions because we still have other questions that we'll be tackling. So I will give the floor back to Sherif for my colleagues to give their take on future education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. Interesting insights, and indeed we'll be back and explore more in the next few minutes. Let me move now to Olga to share her opening remarks.
Thank you very much. I'll have a couple of slides. I'll also have a camera, and I know Maruha here is helping me out to put everything on.
Yes.
So let's see. Perfect.
Already on.
Hi.
So
Hello,
I will
everyone.
just suggest to everyone to use the screen zoom principal scene to see Olga and her slides.
Yeah, I'm using main stage. It's like the fourth icon on the screen zoom, and it works great. Thank you so much. Well, it's a great pleasure and honor to be here on such a distinguished panel, also a very humbling experience. Thank you so much, Eduniversal, for inviting me to share some of the insights from CEEMAN network that we collected over the last 2 years now. I like pictures, so I had to have a few slides also to share some pictures from the place where we are located in Slovenia on Lake Bled. Many of you know it well. We are an association that originally started for Central and Eastern Europe, but gradually we have expanded to work more with other companies, business schools, universities in dynamic societies. We call them dynamic because they're still changing, they're still developing, they're still growing, they're still quite turbulent sometimes. And it's very interesting to follow these developments, to exchange experiences, and to grow together. So in terms of globalization, I think all of us are asking ourselves, is it more of an opportunity or a threat? How to use most of the benefits while preserving the uniqueness that our countries have, how to preserve the diversity, how to deal with increasing interdependence and fragility that we all see, and especially that was visible in the last couple of years. I mean, we all know the example of what COVID caused in Malaysia with the production of microchips and the implications it had on the automotive industry, on the computers, IT, phones, which also have direct influence on our lives, on our customers' lives, on our students' lives. The continuous and growing environmental threats and still inability of countries to come together to a common solution and take a quick action of the inequality that still persists and actually goes deeper with the growing globalization and access to technology, to resources, to wealth. So how do we as countries, as nations, as companies, as business schools, how do we find and sustain our unique niches in this global world? And also, how can we survive a perfect storm? I mean, now it was COVID, it was also environmental issues, geopolitical issues, social issues that all have influence on us and on our lives. Some experience from CEEMAN network that we saw when talking to our schools. We love staying in touch with our schools, with our members, and learning from them. We actually were so glad that in September we could meet in person in Trieste for our annual conference. I think we just caught this last moment that we still could, and we found some loopholes, I would say, and possibilities to bring also participants from countries that typically would not even be allowed to travel to Italy, and that was wonderful. So we all, I think, agree, and it was mentioned a couple of times that online or blended or hybrid will never replace face-to-face. We're all social beings. We love staying in touch. We need to feel the chemistry. So we will need to adapt and find new ways on how to bring this chemistry work in our different reality and when we can get back to face-to-face and normal interaction. Of course, there are new opportunities. COVID was, in a way, this magic kick that we all received. We were talking about digitalization for a long, long time. And now it was finally, we were forced to embrace it, you know, so whether we wanted to or not, we had to. So most of our schools and the schools around the globe, they adjusted and moved all the programs online in the matter of days, maximum a couple of weeks. And of course, there was some challenges. It was difficult for faculty, it was difficult for students, it was difficult for executive education, and we all were hearing the projections how deep the drop was in executive education for most of our schools. But it also opened up access to truly global markets. And here again, we talk about access to students around the world through offering our programs online, access to faculty. It's much easier to bring faculty for an online lecture from any part of the world, or a corporate leader to meet the students and to create this unique bond and share experience. And also partnerships with our schools, with our peers around the world for different kinds of projects, be it joint research, be it joint degrees, be it student projects, or be it even some experiential learning. I think we all had a lesson in adaptability and resilience. And of course, this will be one of the key skills that we will have to preserve because, you know, we often ask ourselves the question, when will things go back to normal? And to be honest, they will never will. So we have to adapt to this. We have to develop new skills. We need to become and help our students, our customers become more resilient. And here, of course, very important role is in global alliances. And I want to mention particularly one alliance that we established together with partners, other partner associations in rising economies a couple of years ago. So we started working more with Association of African Business Schools, CLADEA, ANGRAD in Brazil, Forum in Poland, BMDA in the Baltics, in the Northern Europe, and RABE in Russia, to see how can we support each other better? How can we support our member schools better? And what can we offer together that individually as regional association we cannot? So one of the first initiatives and events was this January, when we ran a panel together with Prime to talk about the new reality, to talk about sustainability and responsible management education. We are also very active in participating at each other's events and sharing experience there. We also plan to have a dedicated event for deans of Alliance member schools sometime in early 2022, and we would be very, very happy to see you join us there. And we also want to launch a joint international research project. Some of you might have heard that CEEMAN was quite active in exploring the hidden champions in Central and Eastern Europe. And the hidden champions are very innovative companies occupying specific niches where they are market leaders either globally or regionally. And we have a lot of things to learn from these hidden champions. So now we want to take the hidden champions research further on a broader level and include all rising economies from countries that our associations work with. So I would be happy to tell you more about Alliance as well. I know Lana from AABS is here. I'm sure that Virginius from BMDA and colleagues from RABE and other associations will also be glad to involve you and your schools more in this kind of alliance and experience exchange. We saw a lot of challenges over the last 2 years. I mean, everyone talks about the Zoom fatigue. Everyone almost on daily level has to deal with burnout, the issues with work and family balance. I mean, I have now a preschooler and a primary schooler at home with me because they're both in quarantine. So, and it brings new kind of challenges that we never thought about. You know, how challenging can it be for our staff, for our faculty to work from home, to deal with all the stress of alarming news about COVID coming up, and how can we support them better to deal with these challenges? How can we do more with less? Because in fact, to move a program online, you need almost twice as many staff members. You need to have one working with the faculty and with the student, and another helping with the technical aspects and handling all this in-person and online audiences at the same time. We are facing a number of constraints in terms of budget, in terms of lack of staff, in terms of lack of skills. So how can we deal with that as well? And growing competition and disruption. We talked at our annual conference in Trieste as well a lot about the new competition. Sorry, my slides are just jumping on by themselves. About the growing competition from companies, from players that we did not consider a competition before. I mean, we all know McKinsey is coming in the management education market. There are a growing number of online academies and online education providers. So are we fast enough? Are we skilled enough to deal with all these disruptions so that we can survive and thrive? I wanted to finish with maybe just emphasizing a couple of trends that I believe and what I see are growing. So one is definitely an even stronger emphasis on relevance of management education. I mean, we started talking about relevance at least a decade ago. There is also a responsible research in business and management network that talks and works a lot with the relevance of research and its application. In CEEMAN, we have produced our own manifesto on relevance, excellence, and dynamism for business education, which we also follow closely in our accreditation. We support our schools with faculty and staff development programs to help them be more relevant to their customers, to the markets they serve, to the developments in the world. Another is lifelong learning, and lifelong learning not only for our students, but for ourselves as educators. And the third one, with the technology coming in, it's also the big trend of acceptance of micro-credentials and stackable degrees. So what can we do as educators to stay afloat, to develop, to grow? Of course, develop our faculty and staff, be brave, be fast, don't hesitate to experiment, to work together, and of course, maintain that high touch, that human element that was brought up already by speakers before me. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm here also at the conference. I would be happy to take some questions and of course to stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Olga, very much. This was another comprehensive and insightful talk, and you've covered a lot of grounds, and we'll try to come back and discuss more. But then first, I'll pass the floor for a few minutes to José, and then I'm happy that we would be having a few extra minutes, A, because we started a bit late, but B, I think it's a very insightful conversation, and I want to hear and receive a few questions from the floor to get the feedback from our speakers. José, the floor is yours.
So José, I've put your slides on the central screen, and you can be up to share your camera on the right screen. If you click right on that one.
So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hi everybody from Barcelona. I'm here since this year, and I've been for the last decade in the States. So two of the major changes I live in relation with globalization have to be with actually with things that I live first in the States and then here in Europe. And the first one, of course, is COVID. It seemed like definitely a great change for many of us. But the other one has been in relation with what we may call the eruption of Trump administration. And of course, the Trump administration has for many challenged the meaning of globalization, but it turned out that in the end, after that, everything kind of stays in the same track. One of the important issues that I would like to recall here is that we've seen before, as Sherif has said before, we have seen before previous visions about how higher education was going to be driven, changed dramatically for many of the so-called eruption of MOOCs. Like 10 years ago, a decade ago, when I arrived at Harvard University, there was that eruption of a edX and Harvard and MIT joined the forces to generate the huge mode of education. And there were the Boston Globes, and many experts were thinking about the revolution of higher education. And that eruption of higher education was supposed to change upside down completely the experience in classrooms, in campus. And this hasn't been the case after a decade. With COVID, and I agree what has been said previously by the panelists, I don't think that there's been at all a dramatic change, both of globalization or both of the approach of higher education. In terms of the, as I said, hybrid blended education, the interconnectivity is a great element to have in mind, but the essentials of the campus and the essentials of the classroom experience are going to remain as they did before with the MOOCs. So in context, we all know what globalization means, but it's good to remember, as you can see in the slides, is generally an increase in the frequency and duration of linkages between countries and leading similarities in activities of individual practice of companies, policies and governments. So higher education is of course among that. So if we go more into what supposedly COVID has implied in globalization, and what globalization is actually changing, or is changing at all dramatically the landscape, we can definitely say that COVID-19 has implied for company a different and more comprehensive way of moving resources and knowledge across frontiers. That will be one of the mainstream, according with some of the well-known experts in globalization that I quote here in the slides. Another essential element generally for the knowledge economy, and particularly for higher education institutions, will be the increase of competition to attract global talent to certain regions in the world. We will talk later about the imbalances that this is going to produce. And there's something that has been studied, and I sit in here in Roncainen and Sikota, about how eventually COVID have then some countries and some global institutions to look for kind of bilateral multilateralism, so to secure resources, to secure the outreach, more strategic and safe linkages. Of course, everybody's thinking about the British post-Brexit in relation with the United States. That's affect business all over the world for more geostrategic decisions. If we go to the state of affairs and in higher education, I will emphasize basically three data. On the one hand, I underline the publications that involve international collaboration have doubled in the last decade. I have data here, but this is a tendency that grows and is steady in this growing. So that basically implies that in international-minded institution, so far, one of the main axes research in the knowledge triangle is a key essential point in this combination globalization and higher education internationalization. The other point is, of course, so far as student mobility is concerned and the growth there. So in recent years, we passed from 1991 from 2 million to 6 million students before the COVID. Of course, COVID has provoked a kind of standstill in the world and also in higher education, and for that sake. But we also can see already in our institutions that students, families, and the general education trend is getting back on track, and mobility is going to get back on track. And the other element that is really important is, of course, that we are moving towards the needs of what we can call a global convergence, I call here, but so far, education, of course, I was member of and president of the Bologna follow-up group. I was also member and president of the higher education strategic group in the European Union. And what's happened in Europe is the generation, of course, of a market, but the US is a big one that, together with Canada, and to a large extent the OECD, is a big market. Of course, what is going on in China is a different issue, but I think that the pressure and the energy and the need of going towards global governance and higher education is a key element for higher education, and that we have to be ready to get track on that. Continuing with the state of the art, there are some challenges and that we are going to face as higher education institutions. And of course, one is the inequality of how the globalization has been provoking, and that's a start with obviously with the Clinton administration, as it's been said for Sherif in the 80s. We already for some decades dealing with this trend. And of course, here we have winner and loser for the time being. So it hasn't been any change that shows that the OECD countries and the English-speaking countries, and particularly the US, are not going to be the ones, let's say, getting the benefit of the what we can say the brain gain. If we go to the US, there are more than 50% of the big firms that make $1+ billion that they've been created or they run by foreigners, and that's have to do, of course, the connection with higher education and the connection with migration policies and how they have managed, and I said they have managed to collect international talent from all over the world, and to be global as an institution and to be global in talent resources is essential to win globalization. And we have seen even during the Trump administration that the country went in one direction, the universities fight to continue in the same, let's say, globalization and highly internationalized logic. We have another challenge, and in the same slide, in the next slide, I emphasize that, and it's what we can, what I call, and it's been emphasized as overqualification and underemployment, and that might have a huge impact in how societies and governments are seen as. I indicate that more internationalized universities are, of course, essential for the reputation of a country and for cities. You know, like it happened, I've been in Boston, I've been in New York, I'm in Barcelona, and cities all over the world to have higher education institutions with prestige this, and of course they will help to build knowledge economy hubs, and that's something that we should bear in mind. And that's imply, of course, two things. We have to combine competitivity and cooperations among countries and higher education institutions if we want to, one, survive in globalization, and second, to bring globalization with a human face, as some of my previous panelists kind of summarize. And something that is very important in the university, higher education institutions and business school, we have to lobby is for a stronger, a more precise, a more smarter policies in so far as skill management is concerned. Because we have to manage more people with higher education degrees, and we have to manage, and we have to be, and we are in the business and in the logic of generating leaders and talent in key positions, but also a drill down of that into societies. And in order to do that, we need to help and we need to lobby for policies that we tackle properly this transformation, this growing of skills, but also the adaptation and transformation of skills. One example is, of course, we're now, for instance, European institutions, we should do with the next generation in terms of trying to put our capacities in education and training towards the transformation of business and public-private collaboration in that front. If we don't do that, we can have, as I said here, an increase in social distrust of higher education. If we don't take care, and governments don't take care of how we take benefit of the talent we are generating in higher education institutions, this is gonna be like a boomerang, get back on us, and it's gonna have an impact. That's happened in the States. With you see the traditional Ivy Leagues, what they are paying for higher education, and the return they are having is not the same they have 5 years ago, and it's not what they had before the pandemic. And this is having a huge impact there, and a huge debate about fees and about the support to this leading, as you know, probably Elizabeth Warren. And what happened in the States many times happen in other parts of the world that have followed the step of these states. And I see as a European that has spent a decade, many other years in the States, and I've been quite a global trotter and involved in higher education institutions. So far, opportunities concerned, and that's also important, is that what I call a renewed awareness of the role of universities is being created because of the COVID. And of course, we've seen how a part of the society and some governments have recognized the credit that universities took in the pandemic, and also are also having to lead the way out of the crisis. But it's true that companies, and that's recall a lot about the communication policies and the strategies that the higher education institutions and business school do have. So far communication is concerned. Since, of course, everybody knows which are the pharmacies that are involved in the vaccines, but not so many, the role of universities, as one or two exceptions, and for sure not the role that university took in higher education institutions and business school in training and all the researchers, all the managers, all the leaders that are being involved in the solution of that. And I think this is definitely a great opportunity, but we have to work here on the front, I will say, of communication. That's a key issue to have in mind. And just approaching to the end and try to send a positive message in relation with that. Is that I think post-globalization in the post-COVID era gives definitely an opportunity to reset the value of the social value of higher education, our role in societies, and the central role that we play in studying and tackling social challenges. Of course, not at the local level, but in the world as a whole, how knowledge that we are generating and the connection of that at a global level is being key to solve the COVID crisis. It's been key to lead the way out the COVID crisis, and we have plenty of challenges. Digitalization, of course, is one of them. Sustainability is one of another. And connecting those, particularly with the younger generations that are the ones that are gonna mark the agenda in the near future. And my last slide also, and sort of on the what we can call a positive message. One opportunity is definitely leverage more than just for the market. And as I say here, an internationalized university community that cooperates to solve the most pressing issues of our time, in combined with the awareness generally that has been in science and universities in relation with the pandemic that we have suffered is a momentum that we have to take, and there is where actually I see the good news for business schools and higher education institutions generally is that we have the means, we have the communication technologies, we have the research networks, we have the qualification frameworks, we have the accreditation systems that societies and governments don't confuse what is the fundamentals of basic training and education with disruptive experiences that have improved through history, that they are a valid asset. And of course, the capacity to interact and generate internationalization of policies. And that's exactly what right now the world needs more than ever, because of the structural trends of globalization, because of the conjunctural path and window of opportunity that globalization generates. Thank you so much. Of course, I'm open for more questions in the debate afterwards.
Thank you, José. As you can see, I mean, this is a hot topic and a topic that is going to stay with us in the foreseeable future. And I could not agree more with many of the issues that José covered. And I'll just build on the last point he mentioned. One of the last points he mentioned, the role of higher education institutions and reassert their implications on society and the impact of what happens in higher education on society from a societal perspective. And we have the platforms, as he said, through different activities that higher education institutions actually offer. Let it be teaching, let it be research, let it be community development. The question is how this is going to impact the new norm. And the three speakers that we heard that diverse input today, they all spoke about the new norm, but nobody knows how the new norm will look like. But I think it's not important how it will look like, but I think it's what's more important is how it can be impactful on our respective societies. Speaking of globalization and the future of higher education, nothing global more than the Eduniversal family. Having people from around the world today gathered in our 14th Eduniversal World Convention. This is the platform. How can we learn from each other? How can we build on our capacities and by the way, our successes and also failures? Because each and every of our respective business schools had pioneered in certain ideas, pedagogical approaches, projects, but also failed in some. And I think we learned from our failures way more than we learned from our mistakes. We've got an extension, and even the extension is almost up, and that again reflects. I didn't want to interrupt any of our speakers because of the insightful remarks they were sharing, but I think we have a few minutes if you have any questions before I actually pass the floor again with a couple of questions to my colleagues before we wrap up. So I'm looking here at the chat in case there are any upcoming. I think it's all praise and appreciation to the three speakers, and I think primarily is because you've covered a lot of ground between Ali, Olga, and José. You've really covered a lot of ground from different perspectives. But let me again abuse the time we're still having together, which is just less than 4 minutes, and ask you, maybe I'll go back to Ali and ask you, we had agreed on a number of framework to talk about, and you've covered all that. What would be your first priority as a leader, as an academic, as a leader in a business school? What would be the priority number one that you would be engaged in as we move forward to try to maximize the future of higher education? What would be the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, thank you very much, Sherif, and thank you, the panel discussants for this eye-opening, actually, discussions. You know, we've discussed the possibility of having some kind of a blended learning, but we said, I mean, you may have variations of the different elements or the sequence, but the overall logic is quite universal. It is very, very difficult to implement if we only use tools from a camp of face-to-face or camp of pure online. Simply put, the execution of the classroom camp would be costly all the time, while the digital camp might be less effective. So what do? A different approach is actually to look at a digital augmented future, okay? So based on existing and accumulative learner data, AI-powered algorithms could actually, like Professor Park was talking about, these algorithms could extract learners' baseline understanding of, let's say, you know, for a marketing program of the marketing concepts and frameworks, for example, past training programs, education background, performance data, assessment results, and so on. And a learning style, for example, behavior pattern from previous digital training, past assessment on the subject matter, and learning impact data. Learners and educators could use this information, you know, to inform their decision on personalized learning paths, including content, format, and pace. Like Olga was talking about, we're going to have other actors in the business and management education. She mentioned some consulting groups, but I can tell you LinkedIn is gaining some ground in personalized education and personalized skill sets. Amazon is gaining some ground on this too. So we need to actually get to use the new technologies that are out there. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, we shouldn't be really scared or say, oh, it's costly, I won't even go there. I'm struggling with
higher education. We ran out of time, but I still want to give 1 minute to Olga, but a different question. What would you think should be stopped as we move forward? 1 minute.
I think we should stop running around like hamsters in a wheel and trying to be too busy and trying to fulfill too many requirements here and there. And we should become more open to the things that are going on around us, you know, to technological developments, to what the companies are doing, what NGOs are doing, how we can be more open to them. We need to be more. We need to develop more empathy, I believe, also for our staff, also for our faculty, and we need to learn to reinvent faster. We need to stop being more arrogant probably, I would say, and become more empathetic and open. And I think then, well, we can have more opportunities to develop and to grow and to reinvent ourselves as we move forward.
Thank you, Olga. So it's what you're saying is focus and create a happy environment that looks at the well-being and the empathy within our environment, which, by the way, will be having an invaluable impact on what happens at the school, but also the impact they have on campus and off campus as well. José, final thoughts. I want to ask you what to start or what to stop. Just final thought.
Well, I will just say you square away your strategy with the hub or your city or your region. In globalization, the more synergies, the more aggregation, the better.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're still starting the 14th Eduniversal World Convention. There's a lot to come in the next couple of days, so stay tuned. There is more exciting conversation, but for now, we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to globalization and the future of higher education. And I think the ideas that were shared today, nobody else is going to do them. It's us. It's us as part of the community that we're having here, but also in our all respective business schools and universities. So with that, I thank you so much for joining us today and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherif. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Olga. And thank you, José, for these insights. Now it's time for the group picture. So please come on stage. Everybody, we are going to manage this in the best way. So choose the place you prefer on stage. And we are going to call everybody in the world. We have some people not in the auditorium, so please, and we will wait for some comments of the person who is going to take the picture. Perhaps he's going to give us some advices. So we will let you know if everything is okay. For the moment, we are waiting for the others.
Please, everyone, come join Cecile on stage. And I think that if everybody face the public, the audience, we can have a great picture. Perfect. I don't know if everyone know the few tricks you can do with your avatar by clicking on your name. I think we can have a full formal picture, but then have a little fun. And you have some dances. For instance, if you type F7 or you click on your name and you can have a dance. That could be cool.
Way is like a flash mob, I think.
I think we're good here, Cecile.
No, we are not for the moment. We are waiting for more people.
More people? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I think that in the meantime, that would be great to have all the nationalities written in the chat. I saw that there were a few different ones. I think that would be great to just type your country, where you come from, and we'll see the power of Eduniversal from all over the world. Awesome. Oh, we have someone from the US. That's very early. Okay. Germany, South Korea, Latvia, Indonesia, Sweden, Mexico, Jakarta, Senegal. That's amazing. Russia. Wow, okay.
So if you can be, yes, really in the border of the stage and trying to be really one by one. This way, we have a better global view of all the attendees. It will be perfect, and we will take trying to take a last one picture, and after that, let you have a little break before the next session. We are waiting for the cameraman to confirm that the picture is or are okay.
So the cameraman just confirmed that it was good for him. He has all the pictures.
One little suggestion. So we'll have a flash mob now. If you are all okay. So when I will say 1, 2, 3, and at 3, if you can click on your avatar, so you have the list of the features, and when you click on dance, on samba, so it's quite at the end of the list, on samba, we will all have a samba together. Okay, so I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, let's samba together. Amazing. Thank you. We have a lot of great dancers this year. We are lucky, so for sure we will be dancing this afternoon, because after the Palms of Excellence ceremony, we'll have a special surprise with dances and games. So get your avatar prepared. Before that, now we have a break. And we have, after this little break, because now is shortest as it was planned, we will have a really outstanding speaker, Mrs. Luzin Mehabi from IDN Group. She is the global head of negotiation training. She is working with a lot of business schools, companies, and international institutions all around the world, helping leaders to be more effective, to better manage their emotions, and she will share with us the 3 superpowers of bulletproof leaders. What future leaders need to impact, influence, and inspire. So Let's meet here in the auditorium in 15 minutes.